Hi, this is Pauline Field, and we're here today for another episode of Retiring Happily. And today, I have the great pleasure to have with us Mary Doyle. Mary Doyle is a business broker, and so she's going to talk to us about how, why, and when to sell your business. So let me share my screen. And there we go. So that we can just fill you all in. So as I said, my company is Retire Happily, and that's what we do. And there's a whole lot to think about for a happy retirement. Through our circles and our one-on-one coaching and interviews like today, we help you navigate this transition. So whether you're a business owner or whether you're in the corporate world, navigating this transition is not necessarily easy. I know I've retired 3 times. And there are some big questions about retirement, and it's not just about the money. We got to have the money taken care of, but when and if to retire? What do you do if you decide to retire? Who do you do it with? Do you want to live in the same place or you want to move? How are you going to stay fit and healthy when it's just so easy to sit on the couch? Being single and retired. And the other side of that is if you have a spouse or partner, how do you deal with that? And then there's what I call the later years, because the rest are really talking about the vibrant years. We've just turned off the alarm. As I said, today, we're talking about a business. When do you know when you should sell your business and how do you do it and why not and so on. I was lucky enough to be introduced to Mary Doyle, who really is a professional in this area. She's a professional business broker who's owned her own business. She's a CPA, and she's worked at one of the big 4 accounting firms. Mary fulfilled the long-held dream of owning her own business when she opened an embroidery and promotional marketing franchise. She acquired firsthand knowledge of what is involved in buying a business. She also understands the joys and challenges of being one's own boss and has gone through the experience of putting a business up for sale as well. As a corporate employee, a business owner, and now as a certified business broker, she has successfully navigated the sale of numerous businesses in several diverse industries. She's licensed by the California Business Brokers and an active member of both the California Association of Business Brokers and the International Business Brokers. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Mary, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Pauline.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I know if I was going to sell a business, I'd really want to know a little bit about who is this person? Why should I trust you? I've given just a thumbnail, but why don't you give us just a little bit of background of how you got here?
Certainly. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I started my career in public accounting. Yeah, I did that for about 4 years. And I liked it to a point I wasn't really being fulfilled by it. So I transitioned from public accounting over to a marketing agency, and I worked in the finance department of that marketing agency. Then I later transitioned to a much larger marketing agency where I became director of operations, which was a big jump for me, but it was really fun and it was really exciting. Our biggest client was Burger King, so of course that was really great to work on. After a few years, unfortunately, that business folded. We lost our biggest client, so I had to think of what my next step was going to be. And one of those things was I'd always hoped to be a business owner. So I decided to make that leap, and I did it. I opened my embroidery store, which I loved. I felt very comfortable supervising employees and doing the marketing and even doing the books because of my background. And that was a lot. It was quite a challenge, but I really enjoyed it. At that point in my life, however, my mother was elderly and she had a catastrophic fall. At that point, I made the decision to leave the business and move in with her full time. So I stayed with her for the rest of her life. It was about a year and a half. And I'm really glad that I did that. I couldn't do that. Then after I settled her estate, I was trying to figure out my next move, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I happened to go out to dinner with a former colleague, and she said, "Hey, so what are your plans?" I said, "I know that I really like working for myself, but I'm not sure what that looks like now." So she suggested, because of my background and my experience of being a business owner, that I become a business banker, which means that I help people sell their businesses. So I looked into it and I thought, yeah, this is the thing for me. So I've been doing it for about 5 years now. And I really enjoy it. I get to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different industries. And none of the deal is ever the same. They're all unique. There's a certain process to all of it, but they're all unique. So it keeps it interesting.
Sounds great. What are the most common reasons that you come across for business owners to want to sell?
Times they want to sell because they're looking for a change. Other times they want to sell because the business is losing money, which is unrealistic because if they're not making money in the business, why should somebody else not buy it? But most often people want to sell because they're ready to retire. So they're looking to slow things down and just have a better pace of life and do some more fun things.
Yeah, interesting point. So even if a business owner is thinking, I've had enough, I want out, and I want out now, what could they determine the right time to sell their business?
Well, really, the best time to sell your business is when your sales are increasing and your cash flow is increasing, or at least you've got steady sales and cash flows year after year. A terrible time to sell is when you've given up because you're worn out and tired and the business is in decline. You're not going to get very much money for the business, and it's going to be hard to find buyers for it.
Yeah, I would think so. Um, what are some of the steps that a business owner needs to take to prepare their business for sale?
First and foremost, as I mentioned, sales and cash flow are extremely important. Business owners should work on building that back up or at least maintaining it. So it's very important that you have key employees in place, because if you're in the face of the business and you go away, the business is bound to fail. And so if you have key employees in place who are talking to your clients and you don't have to be there all the time, it makes it much more attractive for buyers. And also, if you haven't done so, you should have clean books and records. Get your accounting together. Make sure you have a good bookkeeper and a good tax preparer. That's really important to be able to show buyers what your business is making. But then also, if you have certain operating processes, you want to make sure you document those, because that's really valuable to buyers as well. Because once you've left the business, they're still going to have a roadmap on how to run that business. And then finally, just like you would stage a home for sale, you need to clean your space and your business up. Tidy things up, get rid of the clutter, and just get things organized.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I know when I was consulting and working with business owners, I found that many of them thought they could do everything themselves, because after they built their business is successful, and why not? Can't be that hard. And so when it comes to selling a business, clearly it's not something you want to do on your own. And one of the things is to have a professional valuation. And how is that typically conducted?
Okay, first of all, as a business banker, we prepare what's called an opinion of value. The thermal valuation can only be done by somebody who has been licensed, and they tend to be quite expensive. They usually start somewhere in the neighborhood of about $8,000 and can easily reach $20,000 or more. Business banker, on the other hand, our fee for those typically range between $2,500 and $3,500, but we do a thorough job of investigating the business and coming up with a good range of value for it. But we'll start off by looking at your financials and your tax returns for the last 4 years. And I will add back one their salary, as well as depreciation, amortization, and interest to see what the true cash flow of the business is. Because cash flow is key. That pretty much helps determine mostly everything. We also how to do comparative analysis of similar businesses within the industry to see what they're selling for. And then finally, we look at risk factors, things like client concentration and competition. And looking at all these pieces of the puzzle together, we can come up with a range of value that's suitable for your business.
It does sound quite a lot of work.
It's interesting to me.
Yeah. Thank goodness there's people like you. So let's look the other side. So what are the key factors that a buyer would be looking for in buying a business?
I mentioned this before, but primarily they are looking for good cash flow. They want to see that a business is making money. Otherwise, why would they want to buy it? Also, as I've said before, they're looking for key employees because they don't want to be chained to the business. They want to be able to move about and do things and not have the business solely rely on them. And also, longevity is a very important thing. They want to see that the business has been around for a while. All three of those things are very important to buyers.
And tell us some more about the role that you play in selling the business.
What I do, first of all, is I help the seller determine the value of their business through the process that I mentioned. And then once the real agreement is signed, I work out a marketing package. It's very comprehensive. We have tons of pictures. I do a great write-up about the business, describing all aspects of it. And then once that is ready, we put ads on several websites that we have subscriptions to. And these websites are focused on selling businesses. So people know where to go to look to buy a business. And once buyers start expressing interest, we will talk to them, I'll screen them. They have to sign a confidentiality agreement. And we also have to complete a buyer profile so that we can determine whether or not they're actually qualified to buy the business. So once we've identified a suitable buyer, then I will walk both the buyer and the seller through the offer process and work with them on negotiations. I also walk them through due diligence where the buyer is checking books and records and other information about the business. And then finally, get them through the process of opening and closing escrow. And then at the end of the day, what happens is that there's a clean and legal transfer from the seller to the buyer.
Yeah. Quite a process. Now that the business is sold, now what? Do they just walk away or is there a transition period? Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's definitely a transition period. In just about every transaction, a training period is part of the negotiations. Usually it's about 4 weeks, and it's the people have time to be introduced to clients and to vendors, and actually can learn the process of running the business on a day-to-day basis.
I would think that this is the point where they look at the mixed feelings that they've been having about they want to retire, but they love their business, whatever. So this is where I come in.
Yeah. It's a complete lifestyle process. A lot of times business owners, especially when they want to retire, they're tired and they're worn out and they just want to slow down. But by the same token, they've also grown and nurtured what they consider to be their baby, and they have a hard time thinking about entrusting it to somebody else's care. So there's usually a lot of inner conflict.
Yeah. So given there's so much to it, how long does it generally take to sell a business?
It can take anywhere from 4 months to 2 years. And it really depends on the business. That once I get a rep agreement signed, it takes several weeks to come up with the marketing package. And then depending on how specialized the business, it can take a while to find a suitable buyer. You find a suitable buyer and you still have to go through the process of the offer, the negotiation, due diligence. And if you throw an SBA loan in there, it's going to stretch it out even longer. You have to be patient, and you have to understand that most brokers will require a 1-year commitment to the agreement.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, a business is very different from a house, although there's more and more people paying cash for profits. How about, are there people who pay cash for a business?
But happens, then it's pretty rare. And in any business that gets sold for cash, that seller can expect to have the price hugely discounted. Um, Oftentimes, sellers will say the buyer can get an SBA loan, but that's a little bit tricky too, because not only the buyer has to qualify for the loan, the business has to qualify for the loan. Actually, how most businesses get sold is through seller financing, and that's where the buyer is able to pay the seller back for a portion of the price over time. It's good for many reasons, even though sellers initially cringe at the idea. It's good because you widen your pool of buyers, you get more people looking at the business. Um, you're not going to take a hit on capital gains right away because you can defer those tax payments over time. And you actually will get closer to your asking price for the business than you would with a cash sale. You're still going to pay some taxes, but that's deferred over time. And then probably because you're charging interest on that loan, you're getting interest as another source of income. So there are lots of benefits to it.
Yeah. But even this seller financing risky?
Yeah. So first, there's some risk involved in it, but we do things to mitigate that risk. We ask for a person's FICO score and we make them fill out a financial profile and we have them sign that. So it's documented. The next thing that we do is that we have them make a sizable down payment on the business. We want them to put down a chunk of money, 50% or better, so it's not so easy to walk away from that. And then finally, through the seller's note, even if they have a corporation, for example, that purchases the business, if the business defaults on the loan or if the corporation defaults on the loan, the buyer is still personally responsible, personally guarantees that loan. So if they default, there's going to be a lot of pain involved.
Interesting. So what are the things the sellers should keep in mind when their business goes on the market?
I would say first and foremost, make sure you keep your foot on the gas, because I've had sellers who, as soon as they signed on the dotted line with the rep agreement, completely gave up, just completely gave up. And of course, it made the business unsellable. So this is the time where you really need to kick it into high gear and do everything you can to put the business in its best light. And that includes trying to improve sales. It's very important. The next thing to keep in mind is that you need to keep things very confidential. Don't go telling everybody that the business is up for sale, because you're likely to scare off your clients, your vendors, and your employees. And you need all three of those to successfully sell your business. And then finally, I would say make sure your financials are current, because nothing is worse than having a buyer look at a business for the financials and not have current information on hand. It turns them off and they'll walk away.
Mary, this has been so informative. Selling a business is no easy task. And I think everyone in our audience has gotten some really good ideas and tips on how, when, and why to sell a business. Let me share my screen again and we'll look at what's next. So, the first thing, if you're thinking about selling your business, make some commitments to yourself. Are you really going to sell it? And are you going to do everything that you need to do to make it a very good transaction, as well as transition for yourself and the people that's buying it? And then once you've made that commitment, contact Mary and talk to her about your business. And she'll be very honest with you about if she thinks it's going to be an easy sale, something a little more difficult, and what you need to do. And then you might want to consider some one-on-one coaching with me to handle all, not only the emotional things, but really what's next. What you do with your life when you close that door. And as I said earlier, there's lots of questions to think about. And the phase of retirement whatever you decide to do with it overall is the vacation phase. And when you've sold your business, that's even more vital than for most people, because you're going to need time to decompress, to come down from the structure, the order, the drive that it took to run and grow your business. So very important. And if you are going to think about selling your business, give me a call. I'll give you a free assessment and we'll take a look at what would be useful for you for coaching. And to contact Mary, it's Mary at mabusinessadvisors.com. And you can reach her on her cell, 714-396-5842. And the company is M&A Business Advisors. And to contact me, go to my website, retire-happily.com. You can email me at Pauline at retire-happily.com. And you call either my office or my cell. My cell is 818-694-0588. That is it. Thank you, Mary, for this interview. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone watching has. And thank you, those of you that have been watching, and we wish you much success in the future. I wish you much success, Mary, also.
Thank you, Pauline. I really enjoyed this.